beautiful light workers that are here in person at the Cosmic Center, which is located in Sarasota, Florida, in the USA. So whenever you see this coming onto your feed, know it's at the divinely appointed time in the eternal now. So these words will be for you whenever it crosses your path. So one of the things I wanted to mention, because a lot of you on Facebook are very much aware that we had a marvelous, I was just talking about Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo this past Saturday on 11/22. And everything, was a huge, huge event. But guess what? It can only be done when you have collaboration together, right? And we had amazing 10 volunteers that came to assist and to help, as well as our regular individuals that just step in when they need to step in. And so it was quite a phenomenal event. Everybody was very happy and left feeling very elevated, educated, and uplifted. And that was the whole purpose, is to uplift community, uplift us always. So I do want to talk a little bit about something, and I'll tell you the word that came in today. And I want to take a moment to talk about it because it came in really super strong. And that is fairly a new word, at least it was a new word for me, is the word gaslighting. Okay, gaslighting. All right. And, when I first heard it, actually, I never heard of that particular phrase, gaslighting, before. And then, eventually I got what that was. And basically, the idea of gaslighting is somebody telling you something that really isn't. So I guess like a quick example is that, let's say somebody say I'm wearing a pink scarf, right? I see it as pink. Most people will see it as pink, but somebody says, no, it's not pink, it's blue. Okay. And they're so insistent and so effective in terms of persuading you that you begin to question yourself. Okay. And many of us have walked that path. We're like, when we started thinking a little different or out of the box, or it might have been the black sheep of the family, and saying, well, I don't know. No, this is how it's been. This is how it's always been. Say, yeah, but that's pink. I know it's pink. Like, no, it's blue. And so good to convince very intelligent people that I think I'm wrong. It must be blue. Everybody else is seeing it as blue, so I must be wrong. So I'm going to say, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess after all, it is blue. And who knows? Because we're such powerful co-creators, I guess we could convince ourselves mentally, okay, that it is blue, that it looks blue. It's like, yeah, I think I see a tinge of blue in there. Yeah, it probably is blue. And so we're now aligning ourselves with the idea of someone else, a perceived authority, maybe family members, governments, teachers, wherever that's coming from, convincing you that what you know to be pink is really blue. So that's just an example of what gaslighting is. But I'm here to tell you that concept of gaslighting is not new. Now, the name might be new, okay, to describe what we just talked about. But I tell you, where gaslighting, okay, originates from, because if you believe in the Hermetic principles, as above, so below, as above, if that concept of gaslighting exists here, can it not exist on other levels of consciousness? Yes, it can. And one of the earliest, okay, in terms of the Gnostic Gospels, which these are the Gospels that you have to understand that has been purposely left out of the canonical Gospels. And that was in the Council of Nicaea. That's why I say it's so very important that we learn our history. You go back. Now, there's no excuse to say, well, I don't have access to the information, because we are in the age of Aquarius. And guess what? We could get the Library of Congress on our phone. We can access information that we've never had as accessible in recent history. So there's no excuse to say I'm ignorant. Now, you may be ignorant to the point somebody brings it to your attention, you do your own investigation, and that's what we always promote. Don't take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself and come to your own conclusions, because that's the only way that you're going to receive gnosis. What is gnosis? I talk on the word gnosis. It's direct knowing. Okay, most certainly. There are those things in books, and you have to study and research and all of that. That brings you up to a certain level of, say, critical thinking skills, okay, to a higher level of intelligence that we all have, where we can make that quantum, okay, which is not just mental, not just it's body, mind, and spirit. It's multiple things of the wholeness of who we are, to make that quantum of direct knowing. Okay, and many avatars of light. Let's talk about Yeshua, Jesus of Christ. He says, I can do, you can do too. He says, my communication with my Father, saying, hey, you can have a direct communication also. You do not have to go through a priest or a minister or anybody else to get to the source, because he said, what? The kingdom of God is within you. You just have to become what? Aware. But guess where? Well, I'm going to go back. Don't worry. So let's just say in Jesus's time, the Pharisees were saying, Moses, and this is how it is. These are the authorities. And maybe at that time, that might have been the case, because not everybody was literate. Not everybody could read, and then how can there was a lot of gaslighting before, let's say in the Middle Ages, and that is where the authorities, because people maybe weren't literate, they couldn't read or write, and that was a wonderful opportunity for those that could, the powers that be, the one that had the money, the ones that were on the top, can control the ones that are most on the bottom, okay, by that telling them that, hey, the only way you can get to God is through us. And I just talked about the the Council of Nicaea, which was where, Constantine was not going to give up power. Anybody has power is not giving up power in this world. So let's just be aware of that, okay? Let me hand over my power. No, okay? So you had in the Old Testament, these kings slaughtering firstborn boys being born because they were not going to give up power. So that's how powerful power can be, for them to gaslight anybody. Okay, this is the indoctrination. So this is what's causing us to think. We have to go back in history. How did things come to be the way they are right now? And as I said before, we now have access to information we didn't do before, where you do not need to go through an authority to get access to direct information that will allow you to understand and come into a level where you receive what I call gnosis. Gnosis, which is direct knowing. And Jesus Christ said, yes, that can happen. Why? Because the kingdom of God is within you. So the big gaslighting is that somehow you're less than, not smart of, and you have to go through an authority in order to get to heaven. And that, we already know, our history has been so abused. And in addition to that, in case that's not working, then there's going to be the fear component of it. And we know about that in history. The biggest fear is, of course, the fear of death. Jesus the Christ said, if you can overcome the death or the fear of death, then you have truly arrived. And that is truth. That is 100% truth. Toth called that the good death. So now let's get back to my original thing here. Okay, so everybody is on the same page. So where did gaslighting, or one of the earliest forms of gaslighting written about, is in the Gospel of the Egyptians. Okay, and as I mentioned, how many people know about the Gospel of the Egyptians? Practically nobody does. I will recommend for you to please read the Gospel of the Egyptians. Now, a lot of it is convoluted, but as you take your time, or go to YouTube University, somebody has deciphered that for you, helps you out so you can understand it. But basically, what they're saying is this: the whole creation story, okay, what you have to understand, we're in a world of duality, okay, and some may say, I concur, there is a spiritual war on so many other levels. We're not the only level over here dealing with stuff. There's multiple levels. Some people call them dimensions, frequency bands, You could check all of that stuff out yourself. But as we said, as above, so below as above. The concept of gaslighting, okay, comes, for example, in the Gospel of the Egyptians. What were they saying? They were saying, look, there is this G, God, with a little g, a little g. This not just says, can you co-create? Yes, you can. All of us can create. Have we not created stuff? I created a painting, I created music, I created a business. We all can create. So we can create. Are there other levels of creation too? Yes, there is, right? Are we the only game in town? No, we're not. Okay, so you have to think multiplicity of co-creators of which we are a part, right? That's the first concept. Second thing is saying, okay, let's just look at this world. Is everything being created positive and uplifting, or is there an agenda? Agenda. Okay, agenda. There we go. Good student. Very good. Agenda. And there's always been an agenda from the very beginning connected to what you would call the spiritual war. Okay, and the agenda is control and what? Power. And let's just say you have the little gods with a small g that want to be king of what? The hill. We like this hill and we want to keep everybody within this hill. All right. And it serves us to keep this group of people or consciousness or beings ignorant that there's a much larger story. And I've said before, I give my example as a little fish tank that's inside an ocean, and the little fishies that are in the fish tank keep on bumping their head in something and giving a legend saying, you know, you can't go beyond this barrier. It's the unknown. We don't know what that is. And so it makes sure to keep things in a container or a cube, when in fact that fish tank is inside an almighty, magnificent ocean. So it behooves the person or people or consciousness to want to keep things in a container, not to let those levels of consciousness or beings know that there's that. But however, there are those that came from the great sea, the great cosmic sea, like Jesus the Christ, to say, hey guys, we're here to what? Not save you, to wake you up. Wake you up. You are not this. I know it looks really real. I get it. The matrix is strong, or they known as Maya, but you are just in a fish tank and you are really part of the ocean. And we're trying to come here to tell you, you must seek, knock the door to go into the ocean to really know who you are and your origins, because we come from the highest of aeons. And in the Gospel of the Egyptians, one of the things it says, it's saying, you're saying, you know what? I feel I am a divine being and I have this intuition and I feel I'm part of something else and something great. And the powers that be say, no, you're not. You're wrong. You're wrong. No, you're just little and you need us, and you're not that smart, and you just need to be where you are. And by the way, don't worry. You suffer now, but when you get to heaven, if you get to heaven through us, then you have to worry about it anymore. That's called gaslighting. That's called gaslighting, because it's not true. But they have convinced you, okay, because you start to question yourself. But at some point in time, and this is what's wonderful, okay, through the Son, there's a divine plan. And so even though things may look like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on, or I can't remember everything, everybody's waking up. Even the densest of us are waking up. And there is not just us beginning to go ahead. And in the Gospel of the Egyptians, it says that. It says, look, you're going to have to go through this journey, but not to worry. You'll be deceived. That's where the concept of wolf in sheep's clothing comes from. That's where Jesus the Christ came and said, beware of deception. He said it several times. Deception, deception, deception. Okay. And now within our own stirrings, we're beginning to question things. Within our own stirrings, we have now access to things we didn't before. And within our own state, well, listen, let me figure this out for myself. Because 2 and 2 is not adding up. And now I have access to do my own research. I encourage everybody to do that. I encourage you to read the Gnostic Gospels. Really easy to do. Okay, and hear another version. I promise you. When you hear this other version of information, it's going to start to make sense. It's going to put two and two together, and you're going to come to your own conclusion. And you're going to say, you know what? I think humanity has been gaslighted from a long time ago. When you start understanding the creation story and the alternative, the Garden of Eden, the snake, the whole 9 yards we've been doing, and in other cultures too, okay, that there has been this narrative that may or may not be as accurate as we think or was told that it is. But now the raw material is available for everybody who is a divine co-creator, who has the kingdom of God within them, okay, that is very capable of critical thinking and coming to their own conclusions. That's liberation. That's dismantling the matrix. That's moving beyond Maya. So with that, I'll say namaste, beautiful family of light on Facebook Live. We will see you next time. And if you are interested in being part of the transmission meditation, please just go to our Facebook page, Anchoring Light Transmission Meditation. We've been doing this for 19 years, every Monday without fail. And just sign up. And then after that, you'll get an invitation to be part of the transmission meditation. Namaste.